What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be talking about events, methods, and also method binding. So let's get right into it. So we want to actually create methods, self-containing methods with every class we made, right? In the past, the old app, all of these functions were actually global. Any class could use them. They were global. Anybody could call them. But on this particular app, or when we're refactoring this app, we want to do self-containing methods, meaning that the class that it's meant for is the only class that could use it. So for an example, let's go to action. Where is it at? Action, right here. On action over here, we did have this button right here on click, and then we referenced a function, a global function up here, and that's what we're going to do over here. So obviously for a button, we're going to use on click. Click is going to equal, and then reaches reference a function, in this case a self-containing function within this class. This done, and I'm going to actually call it handle pick. And you just want to reference it. You do not want to call it. There is no reason. There is no reason to call this function. You just want to reference it. Back up here, this is where we're going to create our method, handle pick. And for right now, I'm just going to alert, and I'm going to say handle pick. And that is it. I'm gonna control save this. It should, oh, by the way, guys, remember to do yarn run builds for your Babel, and also live server public to run your application, so that way you can see it. So when we click on this now, we should get an alert saying handle pick, which is great. Now we're going to do that for every other class that needed a method. So options down here needed a remove all method. So I'm just say handle remove all. And we're going to just alert again, handle remove all. And down here we're going to create a button, and we're going to get, or we're not going to get anything right here. I'm going to just say remove all, and we're going to do the on click function, or our attribute is going to equal this. Why do we use this? It's because since we're referencing this instance of a class. We're referencing, I'm pretty sure you guys mess around with classes before. So it's not as hard, but if you don't know what you're doing, then this keyword is going to be complicated. So what I'm doing with why we use this, I'm pretty sure I explained it, but we use this because we're using this instance of this class. So you could create multiple instances of this class, right? You could create a lot of instances of this class, and we just need to know which instance is actually calling this class. And this is where this comes in. This knows which one it's coming from. So let's say you have 10 classes or 10 instances of this class, right? And number 9 is actually calling it, and this keyword knows that number 9 is calling it. So whichever one is calling it, this will actually keep up and saying, hey, this instance is actually calling it, and we're going to use that. So this is why we use this. I mean, I don't know if that was a good explanation or not. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but I'm pretty sure I explained it before. And if I didn't, there's tons of videos that actually explain this keyword way better than I did right there. So yeah, I mean, let's move on. Let's actually test it first. Remove all. Remove. Okay, awesome. All right. For our last one, not really our last one, but for this one, we did have a form for this. If you do guys remember, right here, we had a form. We had to set up the form with text input and submit button. We wired up on submit, the click event on submit. And then we had a method, I'm gonna call it handle add option, that would fetch the value type if there was a value and then alert it. That's all we're going to do on this one. So remove this. Let's get our form up. Our form, and right here we're gonna do on submit, and we're gonna equal this to this dot handle add option. Okay. Inside the form we had an input, and I don't like my inputs to be like that, so just like that. Type is going to be a text, and name, we're going to give it a name of option. And then last but not least, we did have a button. I'm going to say add option. Awesome. Now we need to handle our method. So handle add option. And this is where we actually prevented. Remember guys, we do the prevent, right? So on this one right here, on submit, on form submit. Okay, the reason why we didn't use this right here is because since we're referencing a global function, it doesn't need to know which instance it is. It doesn't really matter at this point because it's global, so it'll just call it globally. And honestly, we can't even create instances of this because it's just one time running once. Okay. Anyways, up above we did the prevent default. The reason why we did prevent default, so that way it wouldn't refresh the whole page, because we don't want that. And that's exactly what we're going to do again. So I'm going to pass in the E object, the event object, what's happening. And I'm going to just say E dot prevent default. And then I'm going to create a const. And we're going to get our option, which is going to be set to E dot target dot elements dot option dot value. I know it's a lot of dots, but this is basically we're grabbing whatever the value inside of that input right here. Whatever you put inside this input, that's where we're going to get an option. That's the value that's going to be stored in an option. And all we're going to do now is we're going to say if there is an option, meaning that there is a value, we're going to just alert, simple alert. We're going to alert option. Control save. Awesome. Let's try it out. Add option, and you alert the option. Awesome. But one thing's for sure, guys. I'm pretty sure you forgot about this. I hope you did it before I did. I wanted you to do it before I did. If someone actually submits an empty, if I do just spaces right there, these spaces are actually counted as a character, correct? So if I do add option, you actually get the alert. We don't want the alert when there's just spaces. So what we do to get rid of that is dot trim. We need to trim the value. So if there is any spaces like this, you do add option, nothing happens. See, there's some spaces right here, and then the word, right? What trim does is it actually gets all of the trailing. Okay, I'm not going to use those words, but all of the forward spaces and the back spaces, and trims it just to get the word that it wants. So that's why it's not indented up here. It's actually just all the way left aligned. So you want to use trim a lot. That's the basics of it. So yeah, guys, we've actually got all of our I think we got all of our form submit on remove. Yep, that's basically all the events that we needed, or the methods that we needed. Now we need to do binding, and I'm going to talk about why do we need to do binding. Let's go back to options, so that way you get a clear view of why binding is very important. So I'm gonna do a console.log, and I'm actually going to console this, just like we did down below, right here. This.props.options. Obviously, it's working down here, right? I mean, we are getting our 1, 2, 3 from our options array. So this should work as well, correct? I'm gonna do a console log. I'm gonna just snap it to the bottom, our console. And once I hit the handle remove all, which is remove all, you'll see that we get an error. Actually, it doesn't really print out the array. It prints out that it cannot read property props of undefined. This means that the binding has been lost for this. Okay, it's been lost. It's been broken. I'm not gonna go into great detail about binding, because you could find all of it in MDM binding. I was looking it up right here, and this will actually give you a better explanation than this. Basically, right here, you can see right here, var module, and it's an object, right? Inside that object, you got an X, and then you got a getX, and it's a function. So when you actually assign module.getX, you would expect it to get a 42, correct? So the best way to explain this, guys, is actually this module.getX is actually this function right here, right? So you actually put in this function inside of unbound getX. So when you try to console log that, it reads this function since it already has it, and it tries to return this.x. Well, first of all, this does not know what this is. It doesn't know that this is actually referring to this module object and then getting the X, right? It doesn't know that. The only thing we sent over here was this function. So when you try to return this, it doesn't know what this is, and this is where you get undefined. This is where bind comes in. When you bind the actual object to unbound getX.bind and then module, right? Now, when you try to call it, it actually does know, okay, you're referring to the module, and you want me to return this, which is a module, .x, which is x, which is 42. And by the way, guys, this is kind of confusing, so I'm going to actually rewrite it. Copy this. Just do it like that. Control. I always say control save. It's the same thing. You see, you still get 42. So when you do bound getX, module.getX over here, same thing over here, it wouldn't know anything until we bind the actual object we want this to be referred to. Now it knows this is referring to the module object and is trying to get X from the module object, which is 42. Over here, it didn't know that, so it's like, I don't know what this is, so I'm gonna just throw out an undefined. I hope I explained it pretty well. This is actually a pretty good example of why binding is very important. And by the way, guys, binding isn't just for React. I mean, this error isn't React relative to React. It's actually a JavaScript thing. So you do need to bind these kind of stuff. So since handle remove all loses the this, it doesn't know what object to actually bind it to. We actually gotta tell it to, hey, we need to actually bind this keyword, so that way handle remove all, the method, knows what this is. So bringing the MDM over here, or this demo over here, we gotta bind this keyword to handle remove all. And the way we do that here is actually, you could do it two ways, and I'm gonna show you the I mean, it's a correct way, but it's pretty inefficient. We're going to do it right here, bind, and we're going to just bind this keyword right there. So if I actually remove all, you actually see the array being printed out. That's because now it knows what this is, and we could call it whenever we want. The problem with this is when you render the function all the time, when it keeps on getting re-rendered, it costs a lot to actually keep on binding the this keyword. It keeps on binding it every time you render. It keeps on binding the this keyword, or the this, this, and that's very inefficient. The way we want to actually handle it is by doing a constructor where when we call a class, it initializes the this keyword. It binds it automatically just once and once only. So when it re-renders, it doesn't matter since it's already been initialized. It's not going to matter. So let's actually go up here and try it out. Constructor. We need our constructor. We need to pass in what we want to initialize, which is the props. And we need to call super. I'm not gonna go into details about super. And then this is where we're going to bind the actual handle. So we're gonna set this dot handle remove all. We're gonna set that equal to this dot handle remove all, and then this is where we're going to bind the this keyword, and that is it. We could actually remove it down here now. So now every time we hit remove all, you see that right there, you actually get the array. This has been instantiated. It has been initialized. Once this class has been called, it's been initialized for the first time, and that's it. Like there is no more re-rendering. Every time this renders, it doesn't matter. It will never bind it since it's already been binded, and you could call it wherever you want now, which is a great thing to have. And let me actually go over super. Basically super, I don't know, I'm pretty sure you guys must have messed around with classes, already. I mean, you should have. So the super keyword is used to access and call functions of an object's parent. So basically, this is going to be a somewhat of a confusing topic. This is why I don't want to talk about it right now, but I'm gonna try my best. So when it says object's parent, all right, this class options, it extends React.component. React.component is already a class of its own. It's a class somewhere that React already has in its library, and we're just extending that class with options. So in order to actually get all of the functionality right here, all the functionality that this has, we need to call super, which will call the parents, which is React.component, and actually put in props. That's basically as simple as I could get it, and that is it. You know what I'm talking about? Like I said, it is a bit confusing, but just when you have a class like this, I mean a parent class, which is React.component, and you want to add things to it, then you need to use super. That's pretty much all it is. So we wanted to add stuff to it. We wanted to add the bind this keyword to this handle event. So we needed to use super. If you didn't want to do this at all, you didn't have to. But since we're using props, which does come through React.component, then we needed to use super. We're using props, which is React component, so that's why we use super. If we didn't have props in here, there's no reason to use super. Okay? Basically is that whatever is being used from React component, whatever is being used, we need to use super. That's as simple as I'm going to explain it, I guess. Man, dude, I think this video was pretty good. Oh man. All right, guys, that is it for this video. I hope you learned something from it. I know it wasn't really tricky. It was just the this keyword, I guess, that I probably could have done better, but I'm pretty sure I did explain it pretty good to the point where you actually understand what's going on. And we actually went through a little bit about super. I mean, it's not that I didn't go too heavily on it. It's just a little bit. So all we did in this video was added all the methods. I'm pretty sure you could go on about doing all of this. creating these handle remove all methods and actually adding the functionality. And that's what I want you to do. This is why I leave it like this, so that way you could actually go in there and start messing around with it. But that is it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed what I've done today. I hope you consider subscribing if you have not. Also, please like the video and comment down below if you want me to go through anything or what you thought about the video, if I actually sucked, because I think I did suck at this video. I think that's why I don't want to redo it, because I'm not too sure. I don't even know. I'm just ranting right now. So let me actually tell you what we're going to be doing in the next video. And then the next video, we're actually going to be talking about the component states. And we're actually going to be building I guess you could say a counter app. So that way we could get a little bit more of a feel or handling of the state. So yeah, next video, building a counter app with using state. So that's the next video. And I will see you then.